Welcome to this Explainer. I'm your resident AI futurist, and today we are unpacking what is genuinely a monumental shift in modern technology. We're talking about the Agent-to-Agent Protocol, or A2A. Introduced in 2025, this standard is rapidly becoming the universal language for artificial intelligence. We're witnessing this massive evolution right now, where AI agents are doing so much more than just answering our basic prompts. They're executing complex, multi-step workflows, but there is a massive roadblock. As it stands today, these highly capable AI systems are effectively trapped in their own little bubbles. They simply cannot talk to each other.
Exactly. I'm your tech historian, and while A2A sounds like this incredibly futuristic AI protocol, to truly grasp what's happening, we actually need to look backwards. Today, we're going to explore how the history of connecting early computers holds the exact blueprint for how we are about to connect AI. And honestly, it's setting us up for a technological explosion that is right on par with the birth of the World Wide Web.
So think about the 1970s computer era for a second. We had these absolutely massive, powerful machines, right? But they were totally isolated. Different networks had absolutely no translators to speak to one another. Futurist. And if you fast forward to the 2025 AI era, the setup is incredibly familiar. We've got these brilliant, highly capable AI frameworks and agents, but they are entirely isolated from one another. We are facing this massive communication breakdown between systems today. Historian, but the really good news here is that humanity has actually solved this exact problem before.
Historian, Section 1, the Universal Language Problem.
Let's walk through this timeline, because the parallels are just wild. In the 1960s and 70s, computers existed in completely isolated worlds. You had universities, governments, and corporations, all running proprietary networks, like the early ARPANET. But imagine how frustrating it was for those early researchers. They literally couldn't easily share a simple text file with a colleague at a different university just because the networks didn't speak the same language. It was like having dozens of different regional dialects with zero translators. Sending data reliably was an absolute nightmare. Then, in the 1970s, we get a massive breakthrough. Vint Cerf and Bob Kahn developed TCP/IP. This was a vendor-neutral protocol that allowed any network to connect to any other network. And that foundational layer eventually paved the way for the 1990s, when Tim Berners-Lee invented HTTP and HTML, which gave us the World Wide Web and triggered literally the greatest information revolution in human history.
But, back in those early DARPA-funded days, they were competing standards, right? You had huge, powerful organizations pushing their own really heavy, complex models. So why did TCP/IP actually win out? Historian, it triumphed because it was practical, it was open, and it just worked. It gave us packet switching, reliable delivery, and a common addressing system. But crucially, it was a universal standard that wasn't owned by any single corporation. That open standard setup was the absolute ultimate catalyst for everything that followed.
Which brings us to Section 2, AI's fragmentation problem.
We have the exact same fragmentation problem today. Right now, the AI agent world is basically just a series of walled gardens. You've got agents being built in LangChain, others over in Crew AI. You have all these different cloud provider ecosystems and massive enterprise environments inside Salesforce and SAP. But none of them can securely talk to each other. An agent living in Salesforce cannot easily discover an agent built in LangChain to securely delegate a specific task. Without a common language, AI's true potential is just locked inside these silos.
Historian, Section 3, A2A, HTTP for AI. So here is the crucial breakthrough we've been waiting for. A2A, or the Agent-to-Agent Protocol, is essentially HTTP for AI agents, which perfectly mirrors that 1990s web browser revolution. Just like HTTP allowed any web browser to pull up any web page regardless of what kind of computer you were sitting at, A2A provides a standardized, universal way for AI agents to publish their capabilities, find one another, and securely negotiate tasks. It is the exact universal translator the AI ecosystem has been desperately lacking.
And just like with TCP/IP, the governance of this protocol is everything. A2A was launched in 2025 by Google, but crucially, it was open-sourced and is now governed as an open standard by the Linux Foundation. Futurist. And why should you, the viewer, care about that? Because it means this isn't just some corporate cash grab. For a universal standard to actually work and gain global trust, it cannot be owned by a single tech giant. This open governance model guarantees that A2A is a neutral backbone. It's one you can confidently build your own businesses on without any fear of vendor lock-in down the road.
The real elegance here is how A2A actually works under the hood.
Agents use something called agent cards to publish exactly what they can do. Think of it like a digital business card, but for an AI. Right, and I really appreciate that it doesn't try to reinvent the wheel. When these agents communicate, they simply send structured messages using standard JSON over HTTP. This means an agent built by a tiny 3-person startup can seamlessly negotiate a really complex data processing task with a massive enterprise agent built by a Fortune 500 company. It is seamless, standardized collaboration using proven, everyday web technologies.
Moving to Section 4, the 4 phases of tech evolution.
Historian, when you look back at tech history, there is basically an established law of how these things unfold across 4 distinct phases. Phase 1 is always fragmentation and pain, whether it's those isolated 1970s mainframes we talked about, or today's siloed AI agents. Phase 2 happens when a key player finally steps up and proposes an open protocol, like DARPA did back in the day or Google with A2A. Phase 3 is exactly where we are heading right now. Widespread industry adoption and refinement of the standard by neutral groups like the Linux Foundation. And once that foundation is solid, it inevitably triggers Phase 4, which is an absolute explosion of innovation that no one could have fully predicted beforehand.
Futurist, Section 5, the next platform shift.
So what does that explosion of innovation actually look like in the real world? We are going to see entirely new industries spawn from this. We'll see agent directories and marketplaces where you can hire specialized AI on the fly. We'll see advanced orchestration tools and dynamic multi-agent teams spanning across completely different companies to autonomously solve complex supply chain issues or massive research problems. But we realistically have to temper that excitement with the incoming challenges. We're going to have to figure out agent liability, how to establish actual trust between autonomous systems, how to prevent cascading failures when agents rely on a chain of other agents, and of course, security and regulation. But remember, the early internet had spam, it had massive security flaws, and huge governance debates. Those challenges didn't stop the internet. They were the exact friction that drove the creation of entirely new cybersecurity and tech industries. The challenges of A2A are going to be the exact same type of opportunity.
Which brings us to a really profound realization. It's really the core thesis of this entire cycle. The value moved from the pipes to the applications and services built on them. Think about the 1990s. The web transformed how humans share information. But the real money, the real value, wasn't in the TCP IP pipes themselves. The value moved to the search engines, the e-commerce platforms, and the social networks that were built on top of those pipes. A2A is doing the exact same thing right now. The protocol is just the pipe. The magic is what we're about to build on top of it, transforming autonomous problem-solving in science, in healthcare, and in global business.
The journey of solving communication between systems has happened before, and every single time it has unlocked massive, unprecedented progress for humanity. Connecting these isolated AI systems through an open standard feels incredibly familiar. So looking at the history of the web and seeing how A2A perfectly mirrors that exact trajectory, are we standing at the very beginning of the next big platform shift? We'll let you be the judge of that, but the history certainly speaks for itself. Thank you for joining us for this explainer. We'll see you in the next one.